Good morning, everyone. Um, Today I'm going to be doing something that I do not want to do because I don't know, none of you asked for it, but I don't really have anything better to do and I want to post. So, let's go. Um, so if you've been keeping up with this channel at all in the past 4 years, you'll know that I don't like Be More Chill. So, um, I made a lot of stuff about it and how it's bad, but I never really pointed out specific examples. I kind of just generally said I hated it. And today is going to be a different video. Today is going to be me going through the entire soundtrack for you and writing down every single bad thing that I think about it. There might come another one of these videos because I'm not going to get every single one that I want. But I'm going to say as many of them as I possibly can while keeping this video at a reasonable length and not torturing myself. So let's go. Number one. So number one is like an overture thing. And let's go. Oh, also, you're not going to be hearing it in this video. You're just going to be hearing my reaction to it. So keep that in mind. Okay, so for the first song, it's only 32 seconds long and I have two problems with it. First of all, the synth choice is okay, but the synths that they chose are kind of annoying, and I don't know if that's purposeful, but they're very whiny, and in my opinion, a synth in that type of grandiose opening should be very dark and looming instead of, and also the dwarble of the main synth distracts from the melody, so it kind of makes the motif that reoccurs throughout the entire soundtrack. It makes it a little bit warbled, or I should use a better word for that. It makes it a little bit unclear, and so people don't really recognize it unless you're looking at it through the eyes of the actual, like, sheet music. Okay, for this one I have 26 complaints, so let's go. It's too repetitive with its little synth flair, like the dun 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 dun, which I wouldn't mind if the synth was a better synth, because it's just really annoying. The repetition of the C consonant is less cool than Joe Iconis really thinks it is, and because he sets it up to where at first it has the C consonant at a very sexual part of the show, we associate that with sexual tension for the entire rest of the show. At 48 seconds, I don't really know how to describe it other than at 48 seconds in the second song. There's a little dun 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 thing, and it disrupts the style of the song. It's very different than the electronic music that we've heard so far. The junior line about how the junior's weak is not explained, and it's also not clear. Walking a short distance does not make you smell, and the mere fact that he mentions walking to school makes it so that we all know that that his house is at least walking distance of the school. So yeah. Walking also doesn't bunch up your underwear. I would know. I wear underwear. The partial title drop at the very beginning doesn't make sense because it doesn't hold weight. Um, Will Connolly has a very large tendency to add H's to very high notes, and he does that very often. You'll hear it a lot. I'm pretty angered that I had to Google who Joe Pesci was, even though this story takes place in like 2010 to 2015 range. The mini voice crack on Special is really, really weird and should not have been left in. Will Connolly can do better than that, or Will Connolly, however you pronounce it. The repeat of the C consonant, again, has a very sexual feeling to it because of the way that Joe Iconis set it up, and now when other people do it, it doesn't really work. No one gossips about why people had sex, only that they did. They kind of slut shame instead of, oh, she deliberately had sex. I don't know. The one good actor in this entire show, other than like, no, she's the one good actor. She gets reduced to, "I'm telling the story, Jenna," and that's a great line. I will give it that, but I want this person to be like the main character. No one says tall ass. Take this from a person who is very short and knows that knows that people don't get insulted on being tall. And if you were insulted on being tall, please tell me, because I've never heard of that. And I went to public school my entire life, so the flute part in the Christine part is very jarring to the rest of the electronic music, and it doesn't really make sense. And I think it might be like a MIDI flute, and if it is, that's very, very funny, and I will laugh at it. Is my gain up? Oh, my gain's up. You've been hearing... Hello? Hello? Okay. Wow. I'm sorry. Wait. Yeah, you've been hearing... Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. You've been hearing me ASMR this entire thing. But let's keep going. The D sharp in the Christine part, I think it's like a motif that recurs throughout. It destroys the fine harmony that was there. It was a simple harmony, but at least it was fine. The only thing that I'll ever date is my MacBook Pro hard drive. It's a very smart line, but it's 2010, so no one downloads porn, so yeah, it doesn't really make sense. If you want to have that line in there, make it like set not in the 2010 era. 7-Eleven sells ices and not slushies, so no one calls it Sev-Elev, and if that's a cool character quirk, I guess so, but at least make the character quirks like noticeable. It kind of just seems like Joe Iconis is trying to make slang, but doesn't know what slang is. Flushed It is not 2010 slang. The National Geographic line is incredibly blunt, but it's trying to be subtle, which is very apparent. Jeremy signs up for the play, which is a very time-consuming thing, without consulting his schedule first, and you can't really blame that on his love lust for this girl. It's kind of just him being an incredibly stupid person. Even in 2010, no one yells gay in the middle of in the middle of the hall, no matter how funny Joe Iconis thinks it is. And again with the H's at the part where Jeremy says why, at the very quiet part, there's a very big H at the very beginning. Joey Iconis missed out on a very valuable part where he could have people saying meaningful things, but instead we get treated to unison nods where everyone's like nah 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 nah. Oh, and the cymbal at the very end is way too quiet, and it could have sounded really cool, but it doesn't because the people who made the soundtrack chose to keep the cymbal really quiet, and it can barely be heard in the background. Okay, on to song 3, Play Rehearsal. Stephanie, however you pronounce her, HZU, is not right for this role. She doesn't commit fully, or at least not in her voice. It's kind of bland. There are too many breaks to convey the rambling tone that Joey Iconis is going for, and there are way too many breaths. The horn counter melody is too quiet and you can't really hear it, and I think this might also be a MIDI horn, which would be also quite hilarious. And the wow, when she says wow, it's very flat until the very end. On to the next song, the Squip song. What's the point of Jeremy's theme being at the very beginning if Jeremy's not going to be really talking this entire number? Just a question. Year, when he says freshman year, it sounds like freshman year. Like there's way too much R on that. If he was as good as, if he was as gross as he says he was, his sexting would most likely be unconsensual, and also it's child pornography. So Gerald, this character, called his own penis small, which is very uncommon in heterosexuals. The dissonance in the then part where he's like then, that whole thing, it's amazing, and it's one of the best dissonant parts I've ever heard, but it's way too quiet and no one can hear it, and it would have been so great if it was just brought up a little bit. Jeremy over enunciates the word quick the first time, so he's like quick, and it's there is so much such a thing as over enunciation. No computer is small enough to travel through veins. I'm sorry, I had to pick on this. And also, he's ingesting not putting it into his blood, so I highly doubt that it would go from his stomach into his veins without being slightly damaged. When the chorus is like doing the ha 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 part, it should be a synth and not a chorus, in my opinion. Social standards are not compared or visualized in maps, and the cymbal is still way too soft. So two-player game is a horrible, annoying attempt at rap, so I'm going to skip it because I do not feel like killing myself today. On to the next song. It's a good joke, but the discomfort may increase line isn't worded in a robotic way, which it should be due to the Squip calibrating. The end note of this song is held too long. It's like a synth thing, but it goes on for about twice as long as it probably should. On to the next song. The organ is too loud and it masks the rest of the orchestra in this song, and most songs in this soundtrack. Arch your back and puff out your chest. I know it's not supposed to be oxymoronic, but it sounds very so. The growl in Eric William Morris's voice is very distracting because he has a tendency to like fry his voice, and it kind of works, but not really. This title drop is warranted, and I'll give Joe Iconis that, but none of the other title drops are warranted, and it's a problem. I don't get what the societal thought is about girls not liking it when guys smile, because I've never met a girl who doesn't like it when a guy smiles. So, when Jeremy's being dramatic, Hamlet is the wrong allusion to make. It could be a lot clearer in saying stuff like Romeo, or it would still convey the same thing. On to the next song. Lauren Marcus, I don't think, has a good voice, or at least has a very bad character voice in this, and I don't know if that's purposeful, but please change it. No one says their mother's car, they just say their car. Come get inside my car. Froyo is actual appropriate slang that Joe Iconis could have used, but he doesn't, because he wants to say frozen yogurt for some reason. It could be, but we have to stop for Froyo first. Come on. The cymbal is louder in this song than the rest, but it's still very quiet. Then on to the next song. The voice crack doesn't sound like a real voice crack. It sounds like a person trying to imitate voice cracks. And the gong at the very end comes out of nowhere. On to the next song. Push-ups are hard to continuously do. They make you very sore very quickly. So Jeremy's going to be hurting his body very much if he's doing that many push-ups. The weird Bob Marley reintroduction when Jeremy's singing doesn't make sense, because that's really a kind of song that we associate with Michael so far, because that was his introduction. On to the next song. It's really poppy. And that's kind of weird, since the rest of the soundtrack is a very electric, weirdish kind of sound. No one consults their crush about their crush, so Jeremy's just being stupid by thinking that she's talking about him. Stephanie Chazoo has very bad vowels, and she tries to force vowels and notes out, and it's very apparent when she sings. Okay, the next song is literally just Jeremy's theme with a different name, so it doesn't really make sense to call it The Squip Lurks. Ha ha ha. On to the next song, having Eric William Morris sing about sex with Lauren Marcus is a little bit pedophilic, just in how their characters are pretty much aged. And Jake Boyd has a better voice than the guy who plays Jeremy, and I don't know why Jake Boyd isn't Jeremy. He would have been such a great Jeremy. The flute trill when Jeremy's saying Christine is still jarring. It doesn't help by repeating it. It just makes it still horrible over many songs. The guitar feedback is overpowering the arpeggios and the piano, which is the actually good part, so you should tune down the feedback. I'm not opposed to having feedback in the song, but it just makes it really bad when it's too loud. The crescendo leading up to the subito should get louder. I get its idea, but it doesn't really get loud enough to really convey what it's trying to do. And then after Let's Get to Work, that's an appropriate time to play Jeremy's theme, unlike basically all of the other times that you've played Jeremy's theme. So play Jeremy's theme there. That's the part where you should be like, "Brrr," instead of having the chorus come in and be like, ha, ha, and then that's it. So that's Act 1. I have to do Act 2 tomorrow. And I'm not really enjoying doing this, but you know what? All for the fans. Bye.